Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW Dynamite post show, man. And there is a lot to talk about in today's episode. We hear from TNT champion Kevin Knight, especially after what he did at the end of Double or Nothing. A lot of people were trying to figure out what was in the head of Kevin Knight and why he attacked Darby Allin. We also have Chris Jericho in action taking on Ricochet, a little bit of a grudge match here. We have a fatal four-way matchup between Orange Cassidy, Lio Rush, Brian Cage, and Roosh. We also have MJF's title celebration. We'll talk about that and how I feel about that. We also have an announcement that was made earlier before Dynamite went on the air on TikTok. Tony Khan, President CEO, made an announcement that Claudio Castagnoli and Brody King, Owen Hart's Cup Tournament quarterfinal matchup, will also take place last night on Dynamite. We'll talk about that. We also hear from the newly crowned AEW Tag Team Champions Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. We have Ty J in action, and we also have Jack Perry taking on Mark Davis in a Owen Hart Cup Tournament quarterfinal matchup as well. So let's get into the night, man. We hear from TNT Champion Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight comes out to the ring. He mocks the crowd. Knight says this whole week he's heard one word: why? Knight says that he told Darby Allin to not let himself down and the fans down, and Darby blew it. Knight says that Darby let us all down. Knight says that he had to take orders into his own hands, or matters into his own hands. Knight says that he should have been in the main event rather than watching from the sidelines. Knight says that he's not here to take part, but to take over AEW. Knight says that he didn't want to waste any time leaving Darby in a puddle of his own blood. After that, Kevin Knight is interrupted by Mike Bailey. Bailey says he knows how ambitious Kevin Knight is, but he also knows that Kevin Knight is impatient. Bailey says what he did to Darby was a mistake and asks Knight to apologize. After this, Kevin Knight attacks Bailey with a microphone, and Kevin Knight then hits a choke slam on Speedball Mike Bailey, leaving Bailey helpless in the middle of the ring. We'll talk more about Kevin Knight at the end of today's show. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match to kick off Dynamite last night. It is Chris Jericho taking on Ricochet, with the stipulation being that everyone is banned from ringside. So we will not see the Demand or anybody else coming out to help Chris Jericho or Ricochet. The match itself, I thought it was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Jericho and Ricochet, with Ricochet keeping the pace of the match. Ricochet hits a springboard lariat, followed by Ricochet hitting a running shooting star press on Jericho for a near fall. Jericho and Ricochet are fighting on the outside. Jericho applies a Walls of Jericho on top of the announce table on the outside. Jericho then hits a Death Valley driver on Ricochet off the apron and looked absolutely brutal. Jericho and Ricochet then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Jericho hitting a springboard elbow, taking out Ricochet. Ricochet then gets up, tries to get some offense in by hitting a springboard drop kick, sending Jericho to the outside. Ricochet follows it up by hitting a devastating brainbuster on Jericho on the outside. Ricochet then hits a springboard Phoenix Splash for a near fall. Jericho tries to get up, applies a Walls of Jericho on Ricochet in the middle of the ring, but the hold is broken. Ricochet then hits a low blow on Jericho, with the referee being distracted. This allowed Ricochet to hit a Rico Salt for a near fall. Jericho then gets up, hits a code breaker for a near fall, followed by a Judas effect, and then Jericho follows it up by hitting a Lion Salt in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Chris Jericho. Jericho, after the match, is standing in the middle of the ring, but he's attacked by none other than Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa ends up attacking Jericho and then hits a running knee, taking out Chris Jericho. So it looks like Tommaso Ciampa has his sights set on Chris Jericho. Moving on from that, we have a fatal four-way matchup. It is Orange Cassidy taking on Lio Rush versus Brian Cage versus Roosh. Now, I thought this was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Lio Rush, Brian Cage, and Roosh. Cage and Roosh then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Orange Cassidy hitting an elbow drop. Cage then hits a superplex for a near fall, followed by a jumping knee. Cage then hits a Falcon Arrow for a near fall, but Orange Cassidy hits a Stun Dog Millionaire in the middle of the ring. Orange Cassidy then hits a DDT for a near fall, but Rocky Romero and Lance Archer are here, but Orange Cassidy attacks Romero and Archer. But out of nowhere, we see Jake Doyle come down to the ring and he attacks Orange Cassidy. Don Callis' family then take Orange Cassidy to the back. Lio Rush then hits a spear for a near fall in the middle of the ring, but Rush hits a running kick on Lio Rush in the corner, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Rush. Hats off to Rush for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have an MJF AEW Championship celebration. MJF comes out to the ring, sitting on a throne. MJF then was walking around with the old AEW title, dragging it around, throwing it around on the floor while wearing the Triple B. MJF then mocks the crowd. He says finally he's got the Triple B back. MJF then talks about beating Darby Allin at Double or Nothing with a headlock takeover. He also talks about being a 3-time AEW champion. MJF says the fans are lucky to see the greatness from him. He also says that this is the MJF era. MJF says he wants everyone to get on their hands and knees and bow down to the greatest of all time. After that, MJF is interrupted by Mark Briscoe. Briscoe comes out to the ring. He mocks MJF. Briscoe says that MJF doesn't fit in Philly. Briscoe then hypes up the Philly crowd. Briscoe says that MJF is not tough. Briscoe then talks about beating MJF, which took place at All Out last year in September. And Briscoe says that he wants a title shot. But MJF tells Briscoe no. MJF then says because AEW is not just a sport, but it's a business. And MJF says defending the title against Briscoe is bad for business. MJF then tells Briscoe that there's levels to this shit. And Briscoe is not on the level of the devil. After that, MJF and Briscoe are interrupted by Rush. Rush says that MJF is not a fighting champion. And instead that MJF is a chicken shit. Rush then says he wants a title shot as well, and MJF says Rush has earned a title shot, but tells Rush that next week it will be MJF versus Rush next week for the AEW World title. Now we'll talk more about this at the end of today's episode. Moving on from that, we have a Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal matchup in the men's tournament bracket. It is Claudio Castagnoli taking on Brody King. I thought this was a good match, man. It was a brutal match, back and forth matchup between Claudio and Brody King, with Claudio keeping the pace of the match. Claudio and Brody King both exchanged devastating chops in the middle of the ring, with Brody King hitting a cannonball senton, and then Brody King ultimately hits the finish, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and moving on in the Owen Hart Cup tournament is Brody King. Hats off to Brody King for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Copeland and Cage. Copeland and Cage come out to the ring, grab microphones. Cage talks about FTR. Cage says that FTR are the toughest and the best tag team that he has ever faced. But Cage says that they are the top guys, but not at the tippy top. And Cage then holds up the AEW title. Copeland says that they refuse to say I quit. Copeland says that FTR are in the rear view, and now it's time to have some fun. Copeland says for the first time in 25 years, they will hit a 5-second pose. And Cage says, yeah, I'm not doing that. Cage says that they don't even make flash photography anymore. And Copeland says, well, I figured something out for that. Copeland goes out of the ring, grabs a bag, and brings out a bunch of disposable cameras that he hands out to the fans. So Copeland and Cage are standing in the middle of the ring, getting ready to do their 5-second pose. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the dogs, Clark Connors and David Finlay, attack Copeland and Cage out of nowhere. And the dogs then mock Copeland and Cage and take a 5-second pose of their own, mocking Copeland and Cage while they're laying in the middle of the ring. So it looks like the dogs have their sights set on the AEW Tag Team Champions, Copeland and Cage. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Ty J taking on some jobbers. This was a glorified squash match with Ty J keeping the pace of the match, with Ty J ultimately hitting the finish, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Ty J. Hats off to Ty J for getting the win in this matchup. And moving on from that to round out AEW Dynamite, we have another Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal matchup in the men's Owen Hart Cup bracket. It is Jungle Boy Jack Perry taking on Don Callis' Mark Davis. I thought it was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Perry and Davis, with Davis keeping the pace of the match. Perry hits a Hurricane Rana off the apron, sending Davis to the outside. Perry hits a moonsault off the top rope for a near fall. Davis then gets up, tries to get some offense in by hitting a release suplex on the apron on Jack Perry. Perry gets up, hits a DDT off the top rope, followed by Perry hitting a sliced bread in the middle of the ring for a near fall. Davis then hits an enziguri, but Perry hits a devastating pile driver on Davis for a near fall. Perry then follows it up by applying a snare trap on Davis, but the hold is broken. Davis then hits a devastating lariat for a near fall, and Davis ultimately hits a devastating avalanche pile driver on Jack Perry, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and moving on in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, is Mark Davis. Hats off to Mark Davis for getting the win in this matchup. Couple of things I want to talk about with you guys, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, was it a decent show? It was an okay show at best. I'm going to be honest. I was not expecting a spectacular show coming out of Double or Nothing. 9 times out of 10, AEW usually drops the ball on their Dynamite episode following a huge pay-per-view. And speaking of huge pay-per-view, I told you guys before, man, Double or Nothing, to me, honestly, it's been probably the best pay-per-view so far in 2026. So I wasn't expecting a lot going into Dynamite, but I was expecting some storylines and maybe some follow-up after what happened with Double or Nothing. So we got that. So I want to start with Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight came out to the ring. He addressed what he did, or talked about at least, what he did to Darby Allin at the end of Double or Nothing. So number one, I was happy with that. I was happy that Tony Khan actually did the right thing, allowed Kevin Knight to come out to the ring to address the crowd on why he did what he did to Darby Allin. And with that being said, Kevin Knight pretty much put it as, the easiest way that he could. I mean, he said that, Darby Allin dropped the ball. And that Kevin Knight wanted to take matters in his own hands. He's tired of waiting around. He wants to be the top guy. And Darby Allin dropped the ball. He disappointed the fans, and he disappointed Kevin Knight. And that's why Kevin Knight attacked his former friend in Darby Allin. We had Mike Bailey coming out telling Kevin Knight that he understands that he's ambitious, but he's also very impatient. And this also, causes problems for Kevin Knight. First and foremost, I'm happy that Kevin Knight came out and addressed the Darby Allin situation. I'm glad that Tony Khan did not just sweep this under the rug and did not have Kevin Knight address the fans on why he did what he did at the end of Double or Nothing. I'm glad that they actually did that. I'm happy with Kevin Knight turning heel. And I'm happy with the fact that they're actually trying to push Kevin Knight. When Kevin Knight came into AEW, I told you guys before, Kevin Knight is a superstar. He's great in the ring. He's decent on the microphone, but he's really good on the ring. And right now, he's currently the TNT champion. This guy's got AEW World Champion written all over him. And the fact that they're, slowly starting to push this guy, I feel like in the main event scene now with what he did after Double or Nothing, I'm all for it. I mean, I have stressed a lot with AEW as of late that AEW and Tony Khan need to start pushing these younger stars, because these younger stars like a Mike Bailey and a Kevin Knight and, other superstars on the roster, Jack Perry, these guys are the future of this company. When all these veterans that are signed with AEW eventually retire or what have you, you're going to need these younger guys to step in to take AEW into a whole different echelon into the future for the next 10, 15 years. Guys like Kevin Knight, guys like Speedball Mike Bailey, Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita. These guys are the future of this company. So I'm happy that Tony Khan is starting to finally push some of this younger talent into the main event scene, because you're going to need it. Because you got veterans on this roster right now that are probably most likely on the verge of calling it a day or retiring here soon. And possibly walking away from AEW. Or you have talent that might be entertaining the idea once their contracts are up to want to work in the confines of WWE. So you're going to need this younger talent to step up. So I'm happy that Tony Khan is slowly pushing Kevin Knight into the main event scene. With that being said, look, to me, honestly, it looks like Kevin Knight is going to be in some kind of program here with Speedball Mike Bailey. I'm all for it. In my honest opinion, I wish they would wait to book this match going into Forbidden Door. I know we got some time until we get to Forbidden Door, but to me, it's a perfect match. And hell, I would even put the TNT title on the line between Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight, 100%. But I would also have Kevin Knight win. Kevin Knight should be pushed to the moon right now after what he did to Darby Allin. And ultimately, This is also going to set up a matchup most likely here between Kevin Knight and Darby Allin, again, after what Kevin Knight did to Darby Allin at the end of Double or Nothing. So, I'm liking the push for Kevin Knight. So, that was one positive coming out of the show last night, that I'm glad that Tony Khan really, allowed Kevin Knight to address the fans of, what he did after Double or Nothing by attacking Darby Allin. So, I'm happy with that. That was a plus. The one negative that I have to talk about, man, and I don't want to be this guy, but I have to say this, because I told you guys from the get-go that I'm honest. Brutally honest. We get to the MJF title celebration. All right, number one, it's great that MJF is back AEW champion. Number one. Number two, he's a 3-time now AEW world champion. And I told you guys before, I'm going to say it again, this guy is keeping the lights on for AEW. Hands down. So we get the MJF title celebration. He's talking about winning the title for the 3rd time and the accolades that he's had. He talks about Darby Allin. And he talks about Double or Nothing. He mocks the crowd. But then, after, maybe a couple minutes, all of a sudden, MJF gets interrupted by Mark Briscoe. And Briscoe comes out. He pretty much mocks MJF, telling him he's not tough and this, that, and the third. But he also asks MJF for a title shot. And MJF tells him no, that it's bad for business. So I'm going to start with that. Number one, is it bad for business? Abso-fucking-lutely. Look, man, I respect the hell out of Mark Briscoe. You know what I mean? Mark Briscoe is a great wrestler. When he was teaming up with his late great brother, Jay, rest in peace to Jay Briscoe, the Briscoes were a severely underrated tag team. One of the greatest tag teams of all time. So there was going to be an issue, unfortunately, once, when Jay passed away. With the question, obviously, for Tony Khan was, how are we going to book this guy? Knowing that he's predominantly in a tag team, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And I appreciate the fact that Tony Khan has kept Mark Briscoe on, and he's put him in the conglomeration. He's been putting him in good matches for the TNT Championship. I mean, he had hell of a matches with Kyle Fletcher. He had matches with Tommaso Ciampa. He's had matches with MJF. My thing with Briscoe, man, Briscoe now reminds me of a journeyman's wrestler. They don't really know where to put him. Mid-card at best. And my thing, when Briscoe came out and asked for this title shot, man, the first thing that popped in my head, bro, was, you got to be fucking kidding me. Because first and foremost, Briscoe just came back from an injury. He was written off TV. He was injured, I think, from a matchup that he had with Tommaso Ciampa. Not the last match they just had, but a match prior to that. And Briscoe was off TV for a little bit of time. We haven't seen Briscoe in quite some time. So Briscoe comes back. He has a rematch with Tommaso Ciampa, and now he's shooting his shot for another opportunity at MJF and for the AEW World title. So you're telling me that Briscoe wants a title shot, and you want to run back a storyline that literally took place at last year's All In around September, where Briscoe beat MJF in some kind of bullshit tables and tacks match. Come on, man. It's been 8 fucking months. And Briscoe wants a title shot. To me, it's, my thing with this was, and the reason why it pissed me off is that you had 8 fucking months for Briscoe to challenge MJF after All Out. 7 months for Briscoe to challenge MJF after he beat MJF for the world title. There were situations where other people were challenging MJF where you could have slotted Briscoe in to challenge MJF for the world title. But you refused to do so. So you want to run back a storyline that happened last year in September at All Out, and now you're entertaining the idea of running it back with Briscoe and MJF for the AEW World title. Yeah, I agree with MJF. It is bad for business. With all due respect to Briscoe, and I've said this multiple times, man, Briscoe's great. The Briscoes were an underrated tag team, one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and Briscoe can wrestle his ass off. I'm not taking anything away from Mark Briscoe. No disrespect at all. My issue with this is, man, you want to run back a storyline that took place almost a goddamn year ago. And now you want a title shot, man. You just came back from injury and had 1 match back with Tommaso Ciampa, and now you're shooting your shot? Come on, bro. And my thing is, and here's the other thing, too. Knowing Mark Briscoe's track record with tournaments in AEW, why did we not entertain putting Mark Briscoe in the Owen and have him earn it? That's the biggest key to all this shit, is to actually earn it. I said the same thing about Brody King. You have to earn it, man. You come back and have 1 match with Tommaso Ciampa, and you automatically assume that you're going to get a fucking title shot. And look, I love Ciampa too. He's great. But you can't just shoot your shot after one fucking match and then say, oh, you know what? Yeah, I want an opportunity at the AEW World title. That's not the way it fucking works. You need to earn it. Get some wins over some top contenders and make a claim for yourself as being the number one contender with those wins over top contenders. To solidify yourself as a new number one contender for the AEW World title. I mean, they're handing out title shots like it's fucking insane. It's absolutely insane. So I was pissed with that, and then we get Roosh. Again, another superstar that I respect the hell out of, former Ring of Honor World Champion. But my issue with Roosh is the same thing with Briscoe, bro. Not for nothing. What the fuck have you done as of late? The match you had at Dynamite last night was the first match that you actually had against AEW talent. For the past couple weeks, Roosh has been fighting jobbers. And beating jobbers within 2 to 3 minutes. And now you're shooting your shot and claiming your shot to fame for an AEW title shot. You're not even facing off against top challengers or top contenders in this company to even grant yourself an opportunity at the AEW World title. It's the same shit. It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, you have Andrade, who's been literally patiently waiting for an opportunity at the AEW World title. What the fuck are we doing? What are we doing? You know, I don't understand the whole concept of this shit. And then on top of that, you had Darby Allin, and this was the other thing that pissed me the fuck off. You had Darby Allin for weeks, man. Weeks. Defending this AEW title weekly. Week in and week out. Until we got to Double or Nothing. We got MJF and Darby Allin in Double or Nothing. MJF beats Darby Allin. Here it is. The following Dynamite episode after Double or Nothing, and Tony Khan seemingly is having this guy defend the title weekly on AEW television again. Why? We do not need to see the AEW World title being defended on Dynamite every single fucking week. We don't. We don't. And this comes down to creative. This also comes down to story, man. It's fucking lazy. It is lazy. And I'm sorry, man, but after Double or Nothing, I'm going to hold this guy, Tony Khan, accountable. I'm going to hold this company accountable. Because you go on putting probably the best event of all of 2026, possibly, most likely beating WrestleMania in 2026, to going to this Dynamite, and it's shit. Come on, bro. Like, just be honest and tell the world that you are Mr. Pay-Per-View and not Mr. AEW Dynamite. You're not weekly episodic television, man. You're pay-per-views. That's it. That's it. Double or Nothing was fucking awesome. Was great. The aesthetics of the show, the arena, the fact that the show was sold out with 15,000 people. The aesthetics were great. The matches were great. The moments were awesome. And all the matches were fantastic. And then we get to the Dynamite, and it's like, well, okay, we're back to the same old song and dance. And I realize that we are in Forbidden Door season, which is a fucking joke. And that's the other thing I want to address too, man. The Forbidden Door pay-per-view concept is over. I'm sorry, man. Look, for nothing, it worked maybe the first 2 years for Forbidden Door. You know, it was a great concept when AEW first introduced it because Tony Khan was working with other companies, most notably New Japan, at the first official AEW's Forbidden Door. Now it's turning into Forbidden Door with New Japan, Stardom, CMLL, and other companies that are incorporated with AEW. That's great. But the concept is dead. I'm sorry. New Japan Pro Wrestling, I'm not trying to shit on New Japan. I'm not. First and foremost, there's not a lot of fans in the States that are familiar with New Japan Pro Wrestling, number one. Number two, New Japan Pro Wrestling is not even nowhere near close to what it was 7 years ago. It's not even close. A lot of those top guys in that company has left. They've gone to either WWE or majority of them went to AEW. I mean, not for nothing, I feel like New Japan Pro Wrestling is a dying promotion. I know it's getting run by, Tanahashi, and Tanahashi's a legend. I get it. But you cannot sit here and tell me to my face that New Japan Pro Wrestling, if you are a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, is a lot better than what it was 7 fucking years ago. You can't look me in the face and tell me that. New Japan is a dying brand, bro. It is. Stardom, a lot of the talent from Stardom have left and went to other promotions. You know what I mean? CMML, yeah, they're doing great. I'm not sitting here saying they're not. But don't get it twisted and saying they don't have competition with AAA pretty much doing what the hell they're doing right now. AAA, probably a lot of people can make the argument right now that AAA is a lot better than CMML right now. You know, I'm not trying to show them the idea, bro. I just feel like it's a dead concept and it's going nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, I give a rat's ass about the Forbidden Door, and because now we're in the summer months, you know, AEW, it's a slow burn. You know, it's a slow burn. You know, and unfortunately, there's talents that need to come back to fruition. I'm not talking about the Adam Coles or the Keith Lees, but the Adam Page. You know, let's bring back Page. I know that AEW is going to be in Virginia next week. Maybe we'll see Adam Page. Samoa Joe announced on the Collision episode of Dynamite last night, going into the third hour, that he's taking some significant time off to film Twisted Metal Season 3 or whatever the hell he's doing. So he's taking some time off, and I feel like Joe just came back, and now he's taking some time off. So that leaves the ops in a flux right now. No one knows what the hell is going on with the ops. Their main leader now is taking probably 4 to 6 months off to go film a TV show. You know what I mean? You can't. The thing with AEW, man, is I feel like at times it's never been a time where they've had all hands on deck. There's always somebody taking some time off, or somebody's injured, or some shit like that, and you can't predict someone getting injured. But it's never been a time where all hands are on deck. All the talent is in the house, and they're all ready to go and compete. You know what I mean? Adam Page needs to come back. Absolutely. You know, I think with MJF, you know, alone having, hopefully this is not true, but having these open challenges every week or defending the title every week is fucking pointless. The AEW title is the most prestigious title in this company, and we're defending this goddamn title like it's the TNT Championship. No. We don't need to see the AEW title defended every single goddamn week. We don't. We just did that with Darby Allin for weeks, and the reason why they did that was that was the only way in Tony Khan's mind that we can put Darby Allin over, with him defending the title every single week to make him a fighting champion. That was it. That was their main storyline for Darby Allin, and it ultimately bit him in the ass. Now the question is, what's next for Darby Allin? Darby Allin next is going to be back in the mid-card. Probably going up against Kevin Knight after what Kevin Knight did to him at the end of Double or Nothing. There's no plans for Darby Allin. That was the plan for Darby, and the plan's over now. Darby's back to the mid-card doing God knows what. That's what I'm saying, man. Like, we need story. This lackadaisical, lazy shit needs to go away. I'm sorry. And I told you guys, man, I'm going to hold this company accountable. You can't tell me going from Double or Nothing being sold out with 15,000 people, putting on great moments, great matches, to this Double or Nothing shit that we had, which was awesome, to going to Dynamite this week, and it's fucking lazy-ass booking. Lazy. No storylines. Like, oh, well, there's, you know, Tommaso Ciampa came out of nowhere. Yeah, Ciampa came out of nowhere and attacked Chris Jericho. Is there going to be a story with that? Probably not. They had to find somebody to replace Ricochet because they were getting tired of seeing Ricochet versus Jericho every single fucking week. Hell, they ran the match back between Jericho and Ricochet last night after Stadium Stampede. I thought after Stadium Stampede the shit was over. They needed to find somebody else. As far as I know, Ciampa was teaming up with FTR to try to go after the trios titles. Ciampa's trying to be a main event guy. Ciampa's trying to be in the main event scene for AEW. Ciampa's not there to partake. He's there to take over. To be a main event guy. He has made it abundantly clear that he wants to be AEW World Champion. So Ciampa is trying to climb the ladder. So what the hell do you expect Ciampa to do? It's not no fucking story. The guy's trying to become AEW World Champion in any way that he can. And not be stuck in the fucking mid-card. I mean, that's not a story, man. You know, some people even said they were disappointed with the fact that the Dogs attacked Copeland and Cage. To me, I'm 50-50 on it. Yeah, in one sense of the side, you know, one side of the coin, yeah, I'm pissed off about it. But the other side of the coin, I'm not, because, bro, what tag teams are available right now to face off against Copeland and Cage? Oh, we got the Bucks, they can run it back with FTR. I'm tired of the FTR shit with Copeland and Cage, bro. And there's already rumors and speculation that there's going to be a triple threat tag team matchup at All In for the AEW tag team titles in a TLC match between Copeland and Cage, FTR, and the addition of the Young Bucks. Now, it's just a rumor right now because there's a possibility and rumors and speculation that you got two premier tag teams that might be making their way over to AEW, being the Motor City Machine Guns and the New Day, making their way over to AEW. So I don't know if that match is going to go down. It's just a rumor. But, I mean, as far as the dogs are concerned, I'm not completely pissed off about it. It's because what tag teams you got right now? There's no Acclaimed. You got the dogs. The Bucks, who knows what they're doing. You know, and a lot of other tag teams we haven't seen. Where the fuck are the Outrunners? Where are they at? You have other tag teams that we're hardly even seeing. You got the Rascals. Yeah, they wrestled last night. But you don't have a predominant tag team force to go up against Copeland and Cage. We just got the return of the Guns. Why are we not pushing the Guns? They're a great tag team. Why are we not doing that? So yeah, I can understand people's frustration with it. I can understand that. But at the end of the day, what else are they supposed to do at the end of the day? Honestly, Clark Connors and David Finlay are also trying to be in the top of the card and trying to become AEW Tag Team Champions. So I don't blame the guys for doing it. It's just no story. That's the problem. That is the singularity problem in all this shit. It's the fact that AEW and Tony Khan do not know how to build fucking story. The matches are great. I mean, Double or Nothing is a prime example of that. Double or Nothing put on fantastic matches with very little or lackadaisical storylines, if that. We all know, and it's already been well aware, that AEW could put on banger matches. We just want story. We want the when, the where, and the why. That's it. And I've been saying the same shit now for the past 2 years with AEW. We just want a little story. That's it. The when, the where, and the why. And I think if they actually facilitated that, I don't see there being a problem with AEW Dynamite. But I told you guys, I'm going to say this again. I'm going to hold this company accountable and Tony Khan accountable for the bullshit. After what we just saw with Double or Nothing, that probably went down as one of the best pay-per-views so far in all of 2026. You goddamn right I am. I mean, it's not hard to do, bro. I just feel like when the weekly episodic television is there and there's no pay-per-views, they get lazy. They don't want to do shit. They want to coast by. They want to take the shows and just, literally write the show literally an hour before the show goes on the air, and this is what we get. And I think it's a bunch of bullshit. Write the story, get compelling storylines, and get the fans invested. And we know the fans are invested because look what happened at Double or Nothing in Queens. Sold out with 15,000 goddamn people. The fans are invested. Just give us some fucking story. That's it. It's not hard to do. Like I said, Tony Khan is becoming Mr. Pay-Per-View, and when it comes to the weekly episodic television, he becomes Mr. Lazy. That's it. I mean, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean? I understand that you're trying to make money with these pay-per-views, and you're trying to make revenue, and I get it. And he did at Double or Nothing. I'm sure he did. But the weekly episodic television, man, it pays a hefty price because they don't put any investment into these shows week in and week out. It's what you see is what you get. It's trying to turn chicken shit into chicken salad, and it still remains chicken shit. I mean, it's the only way I can describe it. And not for nothing. I mean, anybody that's watching AEW's product will tell you, man, that, and I've been watching this product since day one. AEW's bread and butter has always been and always will be their pay-per-views. Always, because Tony Khan is Mr. Pay-Per-View. But when it comes down to the weekly episodic television, he becomes Mr. fucking Lazy. That's just the way it is, man. You gotta call a spade sometimes, and that's what it is. And it sucks, man, because, the weekly episodic television for Dynamite and Collision, those are the storylines that we're going to be getting in the build-up towards these pay-per-views. And we're not getting it. We already, like I said, man, we already made it well aware that this guy can put on banger matches. I even said, when I did my review for Double or Nothing, that, Takeshita can have a match. He can literally sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. That's how good Takeshita is, man. That guy can have a match with a piece of sliced bread in the middle of the ring, and it'd be a 5-star banger match. We all know that. We're well aware of the talent that you have on this roster. We just want storyline to get us to be entertained by the match. There's so many other companies that are doing that. There's so many companies in the past that have done that, and it's succeeded. I always go back, for me as a fan, I always go back to the NXT Black and Gold era. You get those takeovers, you get, anywhere from 4 to 5 matches for these takeovers on Saturdays, and the matches were always good, and you always had tremendous and great storylines to go along with it. the Undisputed Era shit, Gargano and Ciampa, who attacked Aleister Black backstage, Nikki Cross, spilling the beans and letting Aleister Black know who attacked him. All these storylines that would, all come together leading us into the NXT takeovers. It's a great way to do business, man. And I wish AEW sometimes adopted that kind of format because they would be red hot. Absolutely. Some kind of backstage brawl, some kind of parking lot attack, or, some kind of mystery, person shows up at AEW wearing a mask and attacks everybody. Well, who the hell is behind? Who's the person wearing the mask? It gets some intrigue. It leads a climax for, AEW Dynamite when they go off the air. Can't wait till next week to see who the fuck this guy is wearing this mask, attacking all this AEW talent. And then the floodgates start going in your mind, thinking, okay, well, there's some free agents out there. Is it Karrion Kross? Is it Bishop? Baron Corbin? Is it Dijak? Is it, I don't know. You know what I mean? It could be anybody. A return. Is it Adam Cole returning? Is it Keith Lee? It gets the floodgates going. It gets the brain going. It gets some excitement and some intrigue into this goddamn company. Something like that. You know what I mean? It's not hard. I feel like sometimes, shit, bro. I feel like there's ChatGPT that can book a better Dynamite episode than what Tony Khan's fucking doing. I mean, I'm just being honest, man. You can go on Twitter right now with Gronk and book your own Dynamite show, and I guarantee you it's going to be better than what Tony Khan's been producing weekly on Dynamite. I bet fucking money on it. It's not hard to comprehend, man. It's not fucking rocket science. Just take the show and write the show to entertain the fans. You know what I mean? You can't just put on banger matches and expect, okay, well, you know what, we're getting through next week. I can't even tell you the last time I watched a Dynamite episode where, man, I was like, damn, bro, I cannot wait till next week. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. You know what I mean? And they can do it. Like, there's so many people backstage and all this talent that I just wish they put together a solid storyline to get the fans, intrigued. Something, man. Have some fun with it. I feel like nobody there has fun with it anymore. I honestly feel like AEW had fun at Double or Nothing. I'll say that. But their weekly episodic television, man, the people that are working there, they just look fucking miserable. Have some fun, man. Have some intrigue. Get excited. Actually want to show up to work and want to be there and be a part of something bigger than yourself. I feel like people that work there anymore, man, they just don't give a shit. They just don't care. And it's like, bro, you got to get it together. You got to figure it out. You got to do something. And that's why I said I'm going to hold this company accountable and Tony Khan accountable, because you can't go from putting on the best pay-per-view of all 2026, and then when it comes down to your weekly episodic television, we're back to the same old fucking bullshit every single goddamn week. Come on, man. You struck iron when the iron was hot at Double or Nothing. And honestly, for what it's worth, knowing that they were in Queens, New York, if they had the opportunity, I'm pretty sure AEW could probably sell out Madison Square Garden. To be honest with you, if they had the opportunity to do so, I would not be shocked. And that's why I said we all know that Tony Khan is Mr. Pay-Per-View. We get it. That is their bread and butter. But when it comes down to the weekly episodic television every single week for Dynamite and Collision, Tony Khan becomes Mr. Lazy. He doesn't want to write these shows, bro. It's chicken shit after chicken shit after chicken shit. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? You got the fucking talent. We all know you have the talent. That's great. And you're utilizing the talent. Look what you did with Kevin Knight. You're slowly starting to push him into the main event scene. Give us some fucking story. That's all we want, man. That's all we want. You had no problem giving us story and intrigue in the first 3 to 4 years of AEW. The last 2 to 3 years have been the drizzling goddamn shits as far as weekly episodic television is concerned with storylines, man. What the fuck happened? Give us some story and give us some intrigue so we can actually get excited for Dynamite and Collision. Because the fans get excited for Collision and Dynamite with solid story, it's going to get those fans excited for the next pay-per-view. Like, for example, Forbidden Door. AEW has already announced another pay-per-view coming in July with, what was it, Retribution? Or some shit like that? In Canada. So, again, a lot of people are worried about that because they feel like Kenny Omega is going to win the AEW World title against MJF. I don't know. Maybe they're going to push Kenny Omega to beat MJF for the world title, and then it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay at this year's All In, after Will Ospreay might possibly win the Owen Hart Cup tournament, which will grant him an opportunity at the AEW World title. The other thing I would say, too, is speaking of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, and I said this, I believe I said this last week, Willow Nightingale is out of the tournament. And right now, Alex Windsor is facing a mystery opponent. I think it's a safe bet that, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I think it's going to be Mercedes Moné making her way back to AEW, and she is going to be the mystery opponent to take on Alex Windsor. I think it's time, and like I said, I mean, it's already been rumored and speculated that Moné was supposed to be returning to AEW imminently. So there's a very good chance that this might be Mercedes Moné. I could be wrong, but there's a very good chance it could be Mercedes Moné being the mystery opponent for Alex Windsor next week in the Owen Hart Cup tournament women's bracket. So we'll see how that plays out as well. But like I said, man, Dynamite, I mean, it wasn't entirely terrible. We just want story. We want story and intrigue, and hopefully Tony Khan can maybe one day get his shit together and actually make Dynamite and Collision actually interesting and entertaining enough to get the fans intrigued once again with Dynamite and Collision. So hopefully we'll see some kind of change, hopefully, here soon. Hopefully. But like I said, man, after Double or Nothing, I'm going to hold this company and Tony Khan accountable from here on out, man, because you can't go from Double or Nothing to giving us this chicken shit bullshit on Dynamite week in and week out, man. There has to be some kind of change. You got to stop being fucking lazy and start writing a show, man. I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm gonna hold this company 100% accountable. Absolutely. After what we just got at Double or Nothing compared to Dynamite, yeah, I'm gonna hold them accountable, bro. There's no excuse anymore, man. There's no excuse. There's no reason why these shows week in and week out should not be good or better, for that matter, like they used to be honest with you. So we'll see how next week plays out. Obviously, we got Forbidden Door coming up as well. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm excited for that, but, you know, look forward to it because it's always, you know, it's a pay-per-view, and Tony Khan tries to do his best to put on the best pay-per-views that he possibly can. So we're going to see how that plays out. I'm assuming probably for the next few weeks we're going to see talent from CMLL and New Japan and Stardom start slowly but surely showing up in AEW, and then Tony Khan's going to start making matches leading up to this year's Forbidden Door. So we're going to see how that plays out as well. But with that being said, though, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.